Hello everyone, a very good evening. I am Bhupali Sharma, a second year student of Electronics and Telecommunication Department. Also happen to be the development week moderator of this club. Welcome you all to the second episode of this placement series. Since officially this is our first meet or first event with our juniors, so first of all, I would like to give a brief about our club. So AEC Coding Club was founded in the year 2016. So as the name suggests, it is a platform for all the geeks and coding enthusiasts. Hacktoberfest, then this placement series, Ideathon, Study Jam, webinars are some of the events that those are like being held in our club. So today we are having the second episode of this placement series. So why this placement series? I would like to like first of since this is the first time we're meeting with our juniors, so this actually we're having a good number of alumnus working at giant tech companies all over the country and beyond the country as well. But the sad part is that we are not in touch with them. We don't know why they were working, and also we don't have any structured way that we can reach out to them. So our club has decided to start this placement series, and in this placement series we are trying to build a bridge between the alumnus who have been through the path and us, the students who will be needing their guidance. So this is the main motive of this placement series. Now, in today's episode, we are going to talk about resume building, and we are honored to have Nihal Jain Dada as our guest. Welcome, Dada. So, he is our alumni from the batch 2015. Currently, he is working at Visa, and before Visa, he worked at Huawei Technologies India. Also, cherry to the cake, Dada was the college topper of his batch, that is 2015, and also the second rank holder of the university. Also, I would like to mention here that today we're privileged to have Pradeep Dada over here in our audience. I'm sure my batchmates and our seniors are familiar with them, but for the juniors, I would like to introduce Pradeep Dada to our juniors. Pradeep Dada is our alumni from the batch of 2018. He was our guest in the first episode of this placement series, and he's currently working as an SD2 at Flipkart. So I think this is the brief introduction of the whole session and our club. And without wasting much time, I'm sure this we should skip to the good part. And before joining, here are a few points. I would like to request my juniors to sit with pen and paper because this would gonna be a extremely informative session. So it would be better if you note it down. Secondly, as we're getting requests now as well, so this session will be streamed on YouTube as well. I think my friend, one of our members of the coding club, will share the link with you in the WhatsApp group. So yeah, these are the points. And if you have any doubt or any queries, you can anytime put them in the chat box. And once the session is over, the main session is over, we'll be going to have a short Q&A session, and in between if you have any doubt or queries, you can put them in the chat box. We will try and read it out for them. Thank you, and over to you, Dada.
Hello, I'm audible.
Yeah, you are.
Sure. So, thanks for introducing me. But so, as Bhopali, right?
Yeah.
As Bhopali mentioned, so I was a student of Assam Engineering College. I passed out in 2015, and after that, actually, I also did my masters from IIT Guwahati, and I've been in IT from like for last 4 to 5 years. So, I've been working into big data domain and building data pipelines for different companies. So Maybe I today I'll be talking about the resume building session. So,
Yeah.
so we can start maybe. So this session will be like 45 minutes long, as you mentioned, and maybe we can take up questions at the end. And please feel free to jump in between as well, not a issue. So maybe I'll share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, it's visible.
It's visible, right?
Yeah.
So most okay. Most likely I will be sharing everything on Chrome only, not a PowerPoint. So this you can see the slides, right?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
Okay, great. So basically today's topic maybe we are talking about resumes, right? So why we are talking about resume? So basically why do we need a resume? So most likely we are talking about the placement part of the resume, but I mean it's, I will be talking about resume in general. What if you are applying to a company directly as well? I mean, because in placements, most likely companies are going to come to the campus and they will be calling you for the interviews and things like that. But what if you are applying to a company externally, right? So in that case, also resume may be one of the most important documents that you have. So what is the key part of having I mean, of the resume? It has to pop out basically. So for example, if you're applying to Google, right? So there will be thousands of applications, right? So how do you ensure that your resume stands out among those applications, right? So because the key to getting an interview at Google, for example, right? How do you even get through the ATS they have, right? I mean that the bots which pass the resume and then try to get into, I mean, shortlist it, right? Because in big companies, it may be the case like there are some bots which are actually scanning your resume, not like some humans who are reading it directly. So if there are, I mean, some job openings, right? And there are few resumes, say 50, 60, then maybe there is a person who is going to shortlist them. But what if there are several thousand, right? So, so in general, oh, so like if there is a recruiter, right, and he or she is looking at your resume, right? So he may not spend more than like 45 seconds looking at the resume. So your resume has to stand out. Maybe I mean to say it has to be catchy enough so that it should be well structured first of all, so that the recruiter notices the key parts of it and still I mean goes ahead and shortlists it, because before it goes into the interview, right, it has to be shortlisted by someone. So yeah. So what is a resume? So it's a French word basically and it means summary, right? So but a resume need not be your autobiography basically. I mean it need not include everything that you have achieved in your career or what. So it should always be inclined towards the job role that you're applying for. For example, if you're applying for a data scientist role for XYZ company, right? So maybe you should try to list down things which are relevant for that role. So a resume can also be used as a marketing tool. So basically, you could write a resume, share it on LinkedIn, and then if some recruiter notices your resume, I mean, then maybe you might get a call as well. But most of the times, it is a document used to in order to get an interview. So in case of placement, most likely this is the first document which a recruiter will be seeing when they come to interview you. So, but in case of an external, I mean, if you are trying to apply to a company externally, then maybe this is the document which will get you to the interview, right? So a resume also represents, I mean, it also represents you. It's not just a document basically. So, so what it means is if your resume is neat, well organized, and error free, right? Then the recruiter may have, I mean, it represents that you are also going, I mean, you also represent those attributes basically. So if it is cluttered, then maybe the recruiter may have an like idea like this guy is not like he's not even taking time to write the resume correctly, right? So maybe so if you have spelling mistakes, for example, right, it's possible that someone who is shortlisting, right, may discard your application just because of that single spelling mistake. So attention to detail is most important part here, right? So so few of the hallmarks of a like powerful resume, like what is it which makes your resume stand out, or what is it that you should have in a resume? So it should basically be accomplishment oriented. What does this mean is like when you are say listing some experience, right? So in the details, you should try to list down what is it that you achieved while going, I mean, during that experience. Basically, if you are working in a startup as an intern, right? Then what is it that you achieved while you work there? It should not be like I did this, did that. But after you did that, what is it that you had accomplished, right? So maybe you were able to build a system and were able to fulfill one of their requirements. So in that sense, it should be like accomplishment driven, not like a attribute. I mean, yeah, and quantifiable results. Basically, say if you were building some tool and it is able to give you like 10% improvement in performance, things like that, right? So always try to include those numbers. So the more quantifiable results you have, the more uh, I mean that detail stands out, because just writing that I was able to improve performance doesn't, I mean, it does not give what was the impact of that improvement, of the work that you did, right? So basically, quantifying the results helps in proving to I mean, the person seeing the resume, what was the impact of your work over there. And a resume should not be a single document, which, I mean, maybe this may not be the case in case of placement, but I mean, if you are trying to applying to some external company, right? So if you are applying for a particular role at a particular organization, right? So first try to go over the job description and see what is it that the company is looking for. So what are the skill sets that they are looking for? So what kind of experience they are looking for? What kind of projects they are looking for? And try to make your resume in line with the requirements. Basically, if it's a data science role, then maybe you should list down all the data science related projects that you have done, all the skill sets, basically whatever tools that you know around data science. And you should be doing this exercise, I mean, for each of the role that you're applying. So if you're applying for some other company which is like a big data oriented company, you have some experience in big data, right? So maybe you should try to cater, I mean, the state out all the things that you have done around that uh, I mean, job role. So in that case, I mean, you may end up having multiple resumes, but if it is a well targeted resume, then the chances that you get through the filtering is very high. If you have a like a very generic resume and you're applying the using the same resume for all the companies or all the roles that you are, right? So it may not, I mean, it may become difficult. So I mean, because you might be listing down irrelevant or not so important things, right? So that is also there. So this is what I'll recommend. So try to create resume for each of the types of roles. Since you guys are freshers, right? So you may be like trying to get work into different domains. But for, I mean, maybe experienced person, this may be a difficult thing because they are already in some particular domain. And the fourth thing is universally meaningful. So basically, it means don't try to use too many jargons. Basically, it should be meaningful to everyone. Even a layman, if he or she reads your resume, right, she or he should be able to understand what is it that you're trying to say. So it should not be too technical also. I mean, listing down the skills is fine, but don't try to use too many complex words. So it should be as simple language as possible, so that even a recruiter, I mean, without technical degree, is able to understand what that statement means. So, and the fifth thing is it should be as clean, professional, and concise as possible. So try not add any unnecessary details which you think is not relevant, which does not add any value to your profile basically or your resume. And the structure part is So since a recruiter may be coming up across multiple resumes every day, right? So if you have a well-structured resume where, I mean, they are able to find the required details very easily, right? So the chances of you getting through is easier. For example, if you list your say GPA, and it's very difficult to locate where the GPA is, right? Then it's possible that the resume gets discarded. I mean, you get discarded just because the recruiter was not able to find your GPA in like first 5 seconds or so. The structure of the resume is also very important. So yeah, so these are few of the key things which uh, you should be focusing on while writing a resume, and these points should stand out in every section or every part of the resume that you write. Yep. So before jumping into the sections of the resume, maybe I'll try to share few of my resumes which I have built over the like last 4 5 years, just to give you an idea of like maybe how a resume. I mean, maybe it's not the best, but yeah. So this is my. I think I wrote this resume in 2018. So this is a single page resume. So again, size number of pages on the resume, right? So it's actually debatable. Some people say resume should always be one pager, but it is possible that you may have a two-page resume if it is not too concise. I mean, for example, in IIT Guwahati, right? So this is the resume which I had. Not these many. This was the like blueprint of the resume I had in IIT Guwahati. So it's, I mean, this is not the final resume. The way I used to do is for every job, right? I was applying, right? So based on the requirement, I used to just add and remove the projects. So this was like the overall resume. But if say I'm applying for a data science role, I'll only keep the projects which are relevant to data science and things which are relevant to data science and just commenting out all of those other things. So, but in IIT Guwahati, I think most of the people have two-page. They call it a CV, but I mean it's a CV basically, not a resume. But yeah, so it depends on like where you are applying and what they are looking for. So yeah, so the various sections of resume, maybe I'll just go over at a high level. So you have a header, you have something work experience or experience where you talk about what you have done. You may list your I mean, basic information like your email ID and stuff over at one place. Some section regarding the skills, like what are the various things that you know, technologies that you know, and then academic projects if you are a student or a fresher, and maybe if you're an experienced person, maybe you can just drop this also. Education, colleges, degrees, GPAs, and all those stuff listed over here. If you want, you can list your awards, things which may be relevant, and maybe some courses that you have done also. But all of these are like optional. So at a high level, I just wanted to give this. Now maybe we will jump to this back. So the header, right? So what should be included? So if you see, this is what I'm calling the header. It could be, so it depends on the kind of resume you are writing. So if it's a two-column resume, then maybe the header can, I mean, the basic information can go in the second column. But if it's a single column resume, right? So maybe the header is the top of the resume, something like this, right? So, so if you are a student, so you might also include your roll number, but otherwise it's not important. So these are the things, basic things which you should always include. Your phone number, so that if the recruiter wants to contact you, and if you're applying externally, right? So your resume should always carry your contact details, like what is your phone number, what is your email ID, and also try to include your GitHub or LinkedIn account, because nowadays people also try to. I mean, if your resume gets shortlisted, right? So the interviewer will have only this document before starting the interview. So if you have your LinkedIn or GitHub profile linked, right? So maybe the person can, I mean, go over your GitHub profile and see what is it that you have done, what are the things that you know, what are the projects that you have contributed to, and stuff like that. So it's also important to, I mean, maybe it's not part of resume building, but it's also important to have a very, I mean, having a LinkedIn profile and a GitHub profile. I hope you guys are also having those. Yeah. So this was about the basic information. So don't try to include things which are personal. For example, what is your race? Are you married or not? And things like that. You could also include your current city, maybe not the complete address, but at least your current city. Like, for example, if I'm in Bangalore, I may include Bangalore over here so that the company knows that I don't have to relocate. So if I'm applying to a company in Bangalore, then it's easy, right? So they just see that I'm already in Bangalore. But say if I apply to some company in Hyderabad and they notice that I'm stating that my present address is Bangalore, right? So it means they will also have to take care of relocation, right? So try to include that piece of information if it is required. And then education. So 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 in case of placements, most likely you might not be graduating. So you can write the expected date of graduation. So what is the expected date that you are thinking? Like, I mean, you might, so month and year. You should try to include your percentage. And high school information, maybe for as a, I mean, freshers, you can include this if you think it is important. I mean, if you don't have much other things to add, but it's okay if you don't include this. But most likely for freshers, I will say include class 10, 12 marks. But yeah, because some companies also have filtering based on your 10, 12 grades, right? So try to add those. But if you're an experienced guy, then maybe this is not important. So so maybe I'll share how the way I have written. And since I am actually already working, so I have included as the last section. But as a fresher, it could be your first section as well, or maybe the second section also. So basically, you should list the college name, what was the degree that you studied, what was your CGP or marks, and most likely I did it wrong here, over here. You should only say when did you pass out rather than the period. So I could have actually done it as just July 2017, saying that I passed out on this date. And similarly for this one. And also, I mean, for example, if this IIT, right? So it can be in multiple colleges, I mean, places. So I just mentioned that it is in Guwahati. And you could write some accomplishment. I mean, you could also add more details over here, like what were the clubs you were a part of, accomplishments and awards. It actually depends on how you are structuring it, whether you are having some like additional sections for these or not. If you have some additional section, maybe you can list them over there as well and restructure, or otherwise you could just list them under the education. But I would say try to list them as a separate section so that this is easily parsable to the person who is trying to read it. So that, I mean, if they have a, I mean, say if some company has a requirement of minimum 8 pointer in masters or minimum 80% in bachelor, right? So they are just able to see it and say, okay, this is fulfilled, I should see other stuff. So try to keep it as clean as possible. Yep. So coming to experiences, and again, one more thing. So try to list it. I mean, the most recent should be at the top. So basically, if you are having some, it should be ordered like this. So say your current, I mean, bachelor's degree, right, should be at the top. Then maybe your class 12, then class 10. So ordering is important. I mean, don't try to arrange it in a haphazard way or in a random order. Otherwise, it may give a wrong impression. So because I mean, ordering is really important. So try to keep it ordered in reverse chronological order. So whatever occurs the last, I mean, most latest should be at the top. Whatever occurs most oldest should be at the bottom. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. So for experiences, since you guys are already on students, so it's possible that you do not have any full-time jobs. I mean, full-time experience anywhere. So it's good to include any internship or unpaid internship that you would have done. So you could add those over here. So basically, if you see, I think I had actually added one. This is actually a 2 years old resume, so I had added this one. So maybe I'll show you something which I had done. Okay, so this is my actually bachelor's resume. So, so this resume actually I created while I was in AEC. and this resume actually got shortlisted into Google as well. So yeah. So yeah. So if you see the things which I had listed at that time was my internship, training and internships. So you could list it as experiences as well uh, because experiences is a more generic term, and I mean people. But since you guys are students, so you can list it down as training and internships as well. So you could include the trainings that you would have done. Although I would not recommend that you go through a paid training. I mean, try to get an internship in some company. But yeah, so again, it should always be listed in reverse chronological order. Whatever comes, the most recent should be at the top, and whatever is at the, I mean, oldest should be at the bottom. For example, this resume is not really good. So, I mean, actually, I've written like what is it that I learned, but there is no, I mean, impact part. There, I mean, I haven't listed anything like what is it that I did by doing this, right? But it is actually possible since you guys are freshers, you may not have had the chance to contribute back to the internship, right? For example, while I was interning in this company, right, Zalora, so I never had a chance to like give them back anything. So it was only that I learned something. But yeah, but I could maybe have written this one in a better way. But yeah, so whenever you are trying to include your experience, so again, these are the things you should keep in mind. So maybe again I'll jump over here. So company name, what was the role that you did? What was the tenure you worked there? And then you can list down. So always make sure you write it as points. Don't try to, I mean, just write a big long paragraph in any section of it, right? Don't try to write paragraphs. So it should always be I mean, bullet points, as concise and clear as possible. So yeah, that was your right. Okay. So yeah, so you can list all of these information. So the again, you should try to only add those experiences which are relevant for the role. I mean, maybe for an experienced guy that could be possible, but maybe if you have too many internships, then it's possible that you may list only the relevant one. But if you do not have, say, one or two internships, right, maybe list down everything, because it's fine for a fresher, I think. If even if and anyways, I think it's going to be a generic interview call. I mean, there are not going to be like data science interview or things like that. So try to add the thing which is most relevant or most important, and remove the unnecessary stuff maybe. So yeah, so that's for the I mean, for your work experience part. And also you could also add few things like this. For example, what were the awards and recognitions that you received while you were working at the company? You could also list them as awards, but I was too lazy to modify. But ideally it should be in another section. But it could be, I mean, you could actually club them together as well, so that it gives a like what is it that you achieve while working in this company, and the recruiter is able to see, okay, this guy was able to do this in this company, right? So maybe this is what we were talking about actually. Try to use bullet points, and also don't try to use terms like I did this, I did that, right? So I mean, you should not use pronouns anywhere in your, I mean, wherever you are listing things, right? So don't try to say that I was able to do this. Don't use the word I, my, and things like that, right? And if you are working currently somewhere, right, so try to use present tense. So tense is also important, I mean, because grammar of a resume has to be correct. I mean, any error gives a bad impression, so try to be correct with the grammar as much as possible. So if you are already currently employed somewhere, or say doing something, so for example, this may be possible if you are part of some club, right, and you want to list it as an experience. So you should say like, you should use the present tense and try to say show what is it that you have done, right? And if something which has already finished, so some internship which you done in the past, then maybe use past tense. Try to use verbs. Verbs means like basically implemented this, developed this, things like that, carried out development. Try to be concise, but also make sure you provide enough detail. I mean, I mean don't try to just be concise and don't add relevant information. So if something adds value to your resume, try to add it, even if it becomes a long sentence. Or I mean, try to come up with a as small sentence as possible. Maybe. Yep. So maybe we have covered, I think, two, three sections. So actually, I did not talk about this in the slides. I forgot. So academic projects, right? So since this is, I mean, you guys are building a resume for a fresher, right? So you will also be listing down the projects that you did as a student, right? And they may not fit into like your experience, right? Because this is some project that you did, right? So what all things that you can list over here? Uh, so this could be your final year project. This could be any project that you, I mean, say some open source project that you contributed to and you did some good contribution over there. This could be also some of your toy projects or some project that you are, I mean, pursuing as a student. But try to keep only those projects which actually add value to your resume. Basically, I mean, if you did some Coursera course and you did some project and you think that that project is like too generic, right? Maybe try to avoid adding that. I mean, unless you have nothing else to list, maybe then, but try to add things which actually add value to your resume. I mean to say, which are not some generic open code. I mean, project that you implemented by just seeing a YouTube video, right? So don't try to list them as. I mean, try not to. If you have nothing to list, then maybe you can. But yeah. And also one more point maybe, so if since this document, I mean, again, this may not be relevant for a placement interview. I'm not sure how this works, like whether this resume is shared, an e-copy of this is shared with the recruiter or not. But if an e-copy is shared, right, try to add links wherever possible. So for example, if you click any of these links, right, so it simply takes me to the project or maybe the project document. I mean, whatever I had done as part of the project. So although this does not include all the details that I have done as part of this project, but if someone is interested and they are viewing it on their laptop, right? So if someone is reviewing a resume some external company, right, where you have submitted it via some I mean applicant tracking system, right? Then maybe it's a good idea to have hyperlinks wherever possible. So if they want, they can just click over this and maybe they get to that page, right? I don't. So yeah, so that also something that you can do, but maybe it would not be relevant for a printed resume. But if, I mean, I don't think you guys are going to make two resumes, right? So if you're applying to some third party company, right? I mean to say external company, right? Then try to keep hyperlinks wherever possible. So for example, if you see this project is hyperlinked to my, I mean, to a PPT, right? So if someone wants to see what is it that I did in detail, they can just go over this. Yep. Even for things like companies, right? So for example, this company, Zaloni Technologies, right? So maybe people in Assam know it, or I mean, maybe today everybody knows it, but like in 2015, right? People may not have known the company. So if you include a URL to the company, it makes it easier for the recruiter or the person who is seeing your resume on their laptop or some desktop, right? To understand what this company is, right? And what is the impact that you might have had while working in that company. And in fact, if you see, there are, yeah, so if you see a package base, right, I contributed, so I think I would have also hyperlinked, not here maybe, so but I had improved maybe. So if you see my latest resume, right, so I think I had even included the 40 patches that I contributed to this open source project. So if some recruiter is seeing it, right, so from some company, right, so they can always go and just see what are the contributions that I did. So although I could not have listed all 40 of them over here, right, but I have hyperlinked them. So if you view it in a proper PDF viewer, it will show as a hyperlink. I'm viewing it in Chrome, so it's not showing it as a hyperlink. But yeah, yeah. So basically, so next thing is skills section. So some people include this, and some do not also, I mean, may not also include this. So the way they might do is when they are they would have worked in some project, right? So they would have listed down what are the skills that was carried out while doing that project. So basically here, right? So I could have listed like what are the skills that I demonstrated via this project, or what are the skills I demonstrated via this uh, like working in this company. But the problem with that approach is, what if multiple projects, I mean multiple such subsections, right? I mean multiple such bullets have common overlapping stuff. So for example, you did this project in Java, something else here also you did in Java. I mean that becomes duplication, right? So I would recommend having something like a section dedicated only to your skills, which lists down the various skills that you have. So basically, I mean, you could mention the programming languages that you know. So for example, if a company is looking for Java developer and they know that they see that you have Java over here, so maybe they have a like, I mean, they see the okay, this guy knows Java. They don't have to decipher the projects and see. I mean, it is possible that you would have listed over here as well, or maybe you would have mentioned like wrote this code in Java. But try to create a section for your skills and so programming languages, scripting languages. So these bullets depends on how you want to demonstrate. So for my particular resume, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule that you should have these subsections. I mean, it should be based on what you know, what is it that you're applying for. So for example, I have tried to list down the big data technologies which I know, web technologies if it is relevant, and then the tools that you know. For example, it's good to say that you know Git, because if you're applying to a company like Google, and all of their code management is done via Git, right? So they will see that this guy already knows Git, so we don't have to spend time teaching him Git, Maven, things like that, right? So yeah. So in fact, people also list the various operating systems that they know. I mean, it may be a good idea, but yeah, you could also list them, not a problem. So again, this same thing. So try to tailor the skills sections according to the job that you're applying for. So if this is a web developer job, then maybe you try to focus and include skills which are relevant for web development. But say if you're applying for a big data role, then maybe try to add things which are relevant for big data. And I mean, and similarly for others, I mean, domains. So another advantage of this section, I mean, is if you are using an ATS, I mean, application. Uh, oh, I mean, if you're using, someone is using that ATS product, right? So they will be, I mean, that bot would be able to parse the resume and try to find out keywords. So if say it finds keywords like Java, Python, HBase, HTML, I mean, I don't know, Git. So it will try to rank your resume based on the keywords that it finds, right? So so it so this also helps in going, I mean, getting filtered through the ATS, right? So the if that application I mean tracking system is using some bot to filter on the resume, then this will help. So maybe you could keep this concise. I mean, maybe I made it too. I mean, it's too much, occupying too much space. But yeah. So also, I mean, this says like try to think carefully what is it that you have offered, and I mean this statement stands out for all. I mean everything in your resume. So basically, every section that you write, every line that you write, right, should add some value to your resume. I mean, don't write stuff just to fill the page or something. So try to write things which add value. I mean, it's okay to increase the margins and stuff and like make the page look like it's full, or try to use a template which actually, I mean, if you have very few things to mention, right, use a template which is not too like too concise or some like that. But don't write anything unnecessary or irrelevant. Try to do that all across your resume. So these are a few things. I mean, I'm mentioning them as additional sections, but you can see if you want to add. Uh, so yeah, someone has a question. Hello. Okay. Anyways, so you could mention honors or reward awards that you would have got. I mean, professional membership or any membership where you have shown leadership skills, you could show them. I mean, add them as a section. I mean, maybe these two can be just one section. Community activities like part of being a club or something, right? Publications. I mean, if you're applying to some US university or something, right? Maybe this is something that you would like to add. But if or maybe if you're applying for an R&D role in some R&D company, right? Then maybe publications could be useful. But otherwise, if you are a fresher and trying to get into some IT company, then maybe you should not add this. But yeah, you could add publications and just give a hyperlink or list them like what is it that you published. So this will be useful if someone is applying for a US university and they are submitting their CV or resume for that with along with the application. So I think these are some additional things that you could mention. So MOOCs, if you have done any MOOCs, I mean massively open online courses, right? So if you have done any of those online courses, you can list them over here. So yeah, and you could also list. I mean, people also list relevant courses. I mean, it need not be just MOOCs. So as a fresher, you could also add like you have done. So for example, I think in IIT Guwahati, right? I remember adding this. I don't know. Let me check. So yeah, key courses taken, right? So what are the most important courses that you think you had taken while you were studying, right? And what is it that maybe you want to emphasize, like this is the course I took. So you could have add those as well, right? So it all depends. So what all information? But these are all optional things. So it doesn't. I mean, it need not be uh, always you add these, but depending on the role and where you're applying, you can always modify this. So similarly, positions of responsibility could be, I mean, don't try to list everything. So based on where you're applying, what you're applying for, try to filter down and include only things which you think are relevant for that role or for that particular company. So what you could list down, and maybe you could also add details like what is it that you did, but I mean, it may not be very, I mean, you may not have that much space first. So achievements or awards, right? You could mention what is it that you, what was, I mean, don't include everything again, but if you're including something, then try to include what is it that makes, I mean, what was the award and how does it stand out, right? So yeah. So extracurriculars, this maybe you would not want to add, but if you want to show something which you are very interested in, like photograph, I don't know, I would not recommend. But if you want to showcase something, then you can have all of these. But I mean, this is actually, I mean, this resume is a raw resume. It is not something which I had submitted anyway. But overall, this actually, I mean, this particular resume, right, for IIT Guwahati, this is like all of that you have ever done. Maybe keep a note of all of these things, and then based on a particular company or particular profile, try to customize it. Basically, customize it and add only those projects that you want, add only those technical skills that you want to include, courses that you want to do, and things like that. So yeah, I think I don't have too many slides remaining. So, so what are the do's that you would be looking at while you're writing a resume? So first of all, don't treat it as an autobiography, but the way this resume is, right. So I think the IIT Guwahati one, right? So it's like looks like an autobiography. It has everything, right? I have ever done. So don't do it like this, but make it like an ad for your qualification or for the role that you're applying for. So if you want to get people from a particular thing interested into your ad, right? So you want to show them what they are interested in, right? So for example, Flipkart, right? If Flipkart is showing an ad, right? And this guy is interested in buying a particular book, then you show him that book in the ad so that that guy clicks on the ad and buys the book, right? So similarly, your resume should be catered to the requirements of the role that you're applying for. So it may not be, I mean, possible as a fresher, but in the long run, if you are an experienced person and you want to like build a resume based on a particular domain, then maybe it would be useful. But again, as a fresher, if you're applying to multiple companies externally, right? So you can actually build resumes as per the requirements of that company. For example, if you're applying to a big data company, you build a resume which lists down all the relevant stuff which you would have done around big data, right? Or maybe data science for that matter. So try to use bullet points everywhere and proofread it many times. Try not make any mistake, spelling mistake, grammar mistake. So, for example, I remember I had posted this resume on LinkedIn some time back, and someone said that programmer is. I mean, I have a spelling mistake in this resume, but actually, this website spelling is like that. So, I mean, don't try to do it. I mean, don't make this mistake. I mean, this is not a mistake here, but what I mean to say is, if this was this company's actual name was programmer, right, the correct programmer, then this would have been a big mistake. But I had no option here. But don't try to make any spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes. Try to proofread it. So it's possible that since you have written it, your proofreading might not always be correct, so try to get it reviewed from your peers. So what I will say, try to create a group among your friends, ask them to review your resume, and then try to ask them what is it that I can improve. So what is it that I should add, what is it I should delete, and that way you guys can like look around your friends resumes and help them as well. And that will also help you, because if you look at the resumes of other people, right, so you may also learn like what is it that is missing in your resume. So it's important that you look at other people's resume and don't think like, I mean, my resume is the best resume. So try to look at resume online as well. I mean, try to see what are the things, the way people have written the resumes, and try to see what is it that you can incorporate or what is it that you can delete from your resume. So these are few do's, I mean, which you can take care of. And there are few things which you may also want to do, which I have not listed. Uh, so if you're applying externally to some company, right? So you can also use some tools on the internet. I mean, there are some ranking tools which will take your resume and see how easily parsable your resume is. So basically, your resume should be readable by a computer bot. It should not be like a document which cannot be deciphered. I mean, it should not be an encrypted document. So try to get feedback from those external tools. Try to use free tools. I haven't, frankly, I've never used them, but it's a good idea if you have time to use them and try to improvise and use those tools to improve your resume. Even there are tools which will tell you like how you should write this statement. What is it that you can do better? But most of them might be paid, so but you can always try. And another do which is not listed is try to always maintain your resume. I mean, as a history of resume. I mean, whatever change you make, right? Try to make a history. Maybe use GitHub. Maybe I'm so, or maybe you can use what is it? The thing that I use. Maybe I'll show you this. So there is something called overleaf.com, right? You can just go over there and choose a go to templates and then say that I want resume slash CV. So you don't need to, I mean, create your own template basically. You can pick any of the template and just build on top of that. So for example, I think my resume is built on top of this template. So I think this was the original template and this is what I have made. I modified it quite a bit, but this is the actual template which I had used long time back. So you can choose any of these templates, and the good thing is these templates are based on LaTeX, so you don't have to take care of formatting, fonts, and all of those things. So if possible, don't use Microsoft Word. Try to use LaTeX, right? So I mean, because with that, what you gain is you don't have to worry about formatting, like state. You can always define like what. So for example, here, right? You can always define that this line should be bold, this line should be with this much character, and it's all I mean, these are all markups which has been written in LaTeX. So those markups take care of like taking care of the formatting. You don't have to worry like if I have written, if this was Microsoft Word, right? You will always have to make sure that this line is 12 in font size, and it is consistently 12 all across the resume. So I'll recommend drop Microsoft and start using LaTeX. Anyways, you guys will have to use LaTeX, I think, for your final year project. So if you haven't done yet, start using LaTeX. And I think if I open this template, right, it also offers .adoc format. So first of all, just go over here and then choose one of the templates. And there are some resume generators online as well. You can look on into them as well, but I would not recommend, because having a template which you can download, right, gives you the full control over it. If you were to use some third party template, resume generator, right, you do not have full control. You cannot just drop a section, or maybe if that website just shuts down, then you don't have anything, right? So use a website which allows you to download this template. For example, I can just come over here and download this whole thing. I think it offers you to download the template. So yeah, I don't remember where this is, but there is a button to download this whole thing. Okay, so you can download this whole thing and maintain your resumes on GitHub. For example, I do that. So I have all my resumes on GitHub, the source code, so that if somehow I lose this template on overleaf, right, so I can always go and just upload the template over there. So this is LaTeX, and if you want to write it in non-LaTeX form, then there is something called rich text also. But I haven't used this much, so I cannot help. But what I mean is, if you use the LaTeX format, right, then all of it is just markup, where you say, for example, you want to change the name, right? I mean, whose resume is this? So just go over here and just say type Nihal Jain, something, right? And then I'm not changing the character length, small cap. So now it will compile this template and create a resume with Nihal Jain written on the top. so so basically this becomes a template, and if you want to add more experiences, it's simple. Just keep copying these experiences. So I think each of these C event, right, start to end, represents one experience. So if you want to have multiple such experiences, just copy paste and add as many such experiences you want. So I'm not saying use this template. I'm saying use something which gives you, some LaTeX based tool where you can, and try to see if you have some cloud based LaTeX tools, something like Overleaf, which can, unless otherwise you will have to download LaTeX, render it locally. That would be cumbersome. So try to have some online cloud based tool, something like Overleaf, uh, where you can just go over to on the internet, change the stuff, and then just recompile and then finally download. So yeah, so that was the do's, I think. I just wanted to share. And then don'ts is, yeah, don't tell everything you would have ever done. It's not an autobiography. I mean, don't make your reader dig for information. So basically, everything which is important should be easily visible. Just so it all depends on how you are structuring. So don't try to define your own structure. So try to follow the way people are doing it. So education, skills, experiences, right? And don't use pronouns like I, me, my anywhere. So it should always be use the correct tense. uh, don't use complete sentences like a long paragraph or something. So try to use bullet points and make the sentence as clear, concise as possible. Do not include any of these personal informations like what is your age, what is your race, whether you are married or unmarried, and things like that. It doesn't add any value to your resume, but it may actually offend the other person. And do not use any fancy font. Don't try to use Comic Sans at least. So if you use any of these templates, right, so I think most of them would have some professional font being used, so you don't have to worry much. But if you are writing it in Microsoft Word, right, so make sure that you, I mean, whichever template you are using for Microsoft Word, right, has the right set of fonts basically. I think yeah, that's it from my side. So try to see as many resumes as possible. Try to take help from your friends in peer reviews. Try to maintain the resumes. I mean, a history of your resumes, or try to create a resume based on each of the roles. Try to use latex. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, I have few things. Maybe I can go over them later also, but I have few recommendations that you guys could try as a college. So maybe I'll share this one. So, pen. Yep. So I think this is a tool which is available in IIT Guwahati. So they have a standard resume format. So this is the standard resume of any student sitting for placement in IIT Guwahati. So it is flexible with the sections basically, but there is an official template which IIT Guwahati uses. So if you are using an official template, then your resume has to adhere this template. So what is the benefit is if some company comes for recruitment, right? So they once they see two or three resumes which look similar, right? I mean the structure. The next time they see the third resume, they know where to look, right? So this will, I mean, this may not be very useful in case of some external companies you're applying, or if you're an experienced guy. But if you are, I mean, as a placement, right? I mean, placement cell can see if this makes sense, like having a standard template so that everyone has a standard resume, and at least companies do not say like this guy. They don't even know how to make a resume. I mean, because companies will be seeing each and every resume, right? And if someone has screwed up their resume, right, company may have a bad impression of the college itself, right? So maybe you guys can see if you can have some tool, something like this. This is anyways open source tool, so you can just build on top of this as well. Yeah. And another practice which IIT Guwahati follows is, so every student's resume is it is actually I mean, there will be a committee which will be set up, and they will be checking each of the resume and checking for the authenticity of each of these. So basically whether this is correct or not, whether the experience that you have added is some not bluff, it is actually correct or not. So you guys can also follow that practice. If I'm not sure whether you're already doing that, I mean, AEC is already doing that. So if we are not doing this, then maybe we can follow this practice as well, like having some people peer, I mean, seniors reviewing, or maybe peer review the resumes, and then see whether the resumes are adding only those things which are actually correct. And you can actually tell the recruiters in that sense that we have already reviewed all the resumes and everything that is listed is correct. I mean, nobody has bluffed anything. So that adds to the, I mean, even the recruiters or the companies which come, right, they will have more, I mean, trust on the resumes, right? Otherwise people, I have seen people bluffing things, right? They would copy resume of some other person and write something on their resume, some project on their resume which they would have never done. Now again, I mean, the thing with the resume is, I mean, although you have written this to get into the interview, but for a placement resume, maybe your interview will be, and in fact this stands for also the, I mean, interviews that you have externally, right? So you should try to highlight only those things which you know about. So for example, if someone questions me about, oops, sorry, if someone questions me about this particular thing, right, I should be able to tell everything about this. So also when you list down things, so you should try to list down things for whatever things you can actually explain basically. I mean, you are comfortable with. So because the resume is the document which will drive your interviews. So if you list something here, most likely your interviews could be driven by those things. But if there will be questions around your CAD projects and work experience, and maybe few skills that you have listed. So So try to be, yeah, as correct as possible and include only things that you know. Yeah. And maybe there's another thing. So you can read this book, the Google Resume. I think you only need to read chapter 4 and 5, I think. So it's written by Gail McDowell. I mean, I think she's the author of the coding interview book, right? The same person has written, and I think it's freely available on the internet. So just try to read this 2 sections. It's not much, like hardly 30 pages, and maybe it helps you in better understanding better the stuff which I talked about. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you, Nihalda. Like, can you please send those PPTs with our members so that we can
Sure.
share them? Yeah, yeah,
Sure. I'll share the PPT and also that book and also maybe all the links, overleaf and stuff.
yeah, yeah, thank you. So there are a few set of questions in the chat box. So shall I read it out for you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the first question is from Prans. I hope his first and middle name is not coding and with. So here is his question. Are they gonna check if those internships are real or not? I mean, what if it's like fake that I did the internship?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, any company that hires you, right? So there will be a background check. I'm not sure for freshers that is done or not, because I mean, frankly, I never went for placements in college. But if you are a experienced person, right? So if whatever you list in your resume or whatever you information that you share with the recruiter, right? All of that information is background checked. In fact, they will also check the I mean, I'm talking as a experienced person. So if I have work experience, for example, visa, I'll tell you, give an example, the latest one, right? So for example, I applied to visa and I made it through, right? So they actually call Informatica and ask, did this guy work in Informatica? And if he worked, what was his designation? And what was the time period that he worked for? So at least these 3 key informations they checked for every company which I have listed over here. Okay. They even called NIT Meghalaya. So actually, I have also worked as trainee teacher in NIT Meghalaya. So they even called NIT Meghalaya, called the HOD, and asked whether I have worked over here or not. So I mean, if I'm not sure whether these kind of things are done for freshers, but a good company will definitely do these things. But internships, maybe they won't do. But any full time role that you would have, they will say. Even the education section, right? So I mean, all of these is background checked. So they will, so each college, I mean, has their own I mean, so maybe this is done via the degrees that you have, but otherwise they can also call the college. For example, for IIT Guwahati, right? So they actually call IIT Guwahati and ask whether I have actually done the degree from here or not. So it all depends actually, but everything is background checked. But for freshers, I'm not sure whether internship information is checked or not. But I will not recommend adding anything which is not, I mean, truth. I mean, correct in your resume, because it's not just your resume which will. I mean, it's not just you who is getting the impact. Even the college, right? The college has a bad name if you are doing this. So that's why I said maybe we should also have something like checking each resume and verifying the authenticity of all the information that we have, so that we can at least not have this thing going for, I mean, going into the company, right? Like the students of AEC are listing fake internship which they did, which they did not even do, right? So yeah, but I will not recommend this. Yeah, don't do this. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. So the second question is from Arif. He wants to know how should we write our resume for third year internship roles? What should be our key focus?
Sure. So again, so this actually becomes an external job application kind of an resume, right?
Mhm.
Because now you know that you which company you are applying to, what is the role that you are applying for. So for example, if I'm applying into a data science company, right? So maybe, so again I am telling you, because you guys are student, right? So you should actually, whenever you are doing some course, right? So you should be always focused on what is it that you want to gain as a student. So for example, if you are looking for an internship in a data science company in your third year, right? So maybe you should start building up skills, building up projects around that skill or around that particular thing, even from the second year itself, so that when you apply for that project, right? I mean, for that role, right? You have something to list on your resume. Otherwise, I mean, it's always okay to apply with some generic set of skills that you have. But for example, if you're applying into a startup which wants only data science people, right, guys, right? And if you don't even know Python, for example, and it's not listed in your resume, so they will not, I mean, they will not even call you for an interview. I mean, or maybe not even, I mean, you may not make it, because first of all, they should be sure that you know Python or the things that are required around data science, right? But it depends on whether what the company is looking for actually. Because if some company is looking for long internship, like 6 month kind of an internship, right? So it is possible they may try to see as a holistic thing, right? Like how you are, and maybe they will say, okay, we will teach this guy this particular technology for the first 2 months, and then we will get him to work for the next 4 months. But it is always advisable that you have those skills which are required. For example, if you see, right, I did my internship in a big data company, right? So unfortunately that company wanted me to have an internship of like 6 months, because they wanted me to contribute back to the company, right? And I did not know big data at that point. But because I had a like a my I made it through the interview, they had actually hired, I mean, they got me into the in the internship. But I was not able to contribute anything to the company. But if you already have those skills, then maybe you get the practical hands on those skills, of those skills, if you actually have a resume which lists down all those skills and you actually know those skills. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is from Shrista, and her question is, if we belong to a different department and want to join the IT sector or vice versa, then how can we build the projects, and minimum how many projects do we require?
Okay. So again, I mean, I think it's almost overlapping the answer which I told some time back. So if you are from say electrical department and you want to get into IT, right? So what I will say is try to learn. I mean, apart from what you are learning in college, right? Try to do online courses and learn the skills required to be in I mean any computer science job which would be required, right? Try to learn those things. For example, you should be knowing the programming languages, one of the programming languages, right? So I'll recommend learn either Python or Java apart from C or C++. So everyone should know either of these, everything Python or Java. So try to learn one of the programming languages. Try to see, say if you want to be in the data science, then try to learn what all tools are available for data science, and then maybe attend some of the online courses around data science. I mean, basic courses, right? And then while you once you reach your say final year, right? Then no, it's not like you have to reach your final year. Just try to get into some of the internship in the related domain. So say if you are in a placement and you are an electrical student, but you have internship. I mean, say fifth semester internship also in something related to data science, right? That company may hire you, even though because though you are an electrical student, because you have experience, right? Demonstrated the experience of getting an internship, working in a company, right? So that increases the chances. But say if you, I mean, I don't think it is possible to have a non-electrical internship in the 6th year, but try to get it semester, and try to get it in other semesters also. So try to get as many internships as possible in the relevant stuff. That is what I'll say. Yeah. And I think C also asked the number of projects, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, don't try to focus on the number. I mean, you should just see what is the impact that you have. So even if you are able to do just two projects and those are like quite impactful work that you did, right? So you learned something, right? And you were able to build something, and maybe you were able to build a web app as well, which gives a live demo of what you built. Then those things will add value. I mean, so I mean, there's no number as such, but I mean, impact is what that counts. I think. So yeah, don't try to do things just to fill the resume. Yeah, you can always find a template which is more like lesser packed, basically, where you can, I mean, distribute your whatever information is there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think Arnish, Shishir, and Saptarshi, I think you guys have the same type of question. So I think your questions have been answered. So the next question is from Pallavi, and she asks, should we start preparing resumes for from first year itself?
Sorry, can you
Uh,
please repeat?
yeah, like Pallavi asked that should we start building our resumes from first year itself?
I think AEC already does it, right? I think we guys build. I mean, Farhana ma'am takes the class, right? Resume building class for from second year itself, right? Or first year itself. I don't know. But I
First year.
remember for us, she used to take that class, right? In the first year itself, and asked, and we actually had to build a resume, right? CV or resume, whatever it is. But I think this is already being done in AEC, I guess. So
Yeah.
try to make a resume. I mean, things like resume, LinkedIn, GitHub, right? Everyone should have it by the end of first year. I mean, it does not matter whether you're a computer science student, electrical student, civil student. Try to, I mean, GitHub maybe, not for civil, right? But at least LinkedIn and resume or slash CV, right? Either of those. Try to have it from first year onwards. Yeah. I mean, just keep build other. So I'll tell you what would happen if you don't do it from the first year. So for example, uh, you have a because you're doing it from the first year, right? So when you do a project, you always take care of noting down the things which you want to add in your resume after doing that project. But just consider the same thing that you are in the final year and you want to list down some project which you think is important for your application, and but you did that in the first year. Now I mean, how do you even recall what is it that you did, right?
Mhm.
So try to, I mean, just have it even though you don't submit it anywhere. Yeah. I mean, it's just a history of work in that form. And yeah.
Yeah, got it. The next questions are from Hriday and Vishal. Those are like similar questions. So I would read it out. Why is it difficult to get IT jobs from tier 2 colleges? And the second question goes like, what top IT companies, why top IT companies don't hire directly from tier 2 colleges?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As I mentioned, right, I was actually called for an interview from Google. I mean, maybe not in office, but I actually got an interview call from Google while I was in Assam Engineering College without the IIT Guwahati tag. Okay. So, I mean, this is not like you may will never get a call from an interview. It's only that you have to make the effort. So it is true that those companies will not visit the campus, but every company has jobs portal, right? Just go to google.com/jobs. I mean, I don't remember the exact URL, but just Google apply for job at Google, right? You will get the URL, and if you have the right skill set and everything, right, you can actually get an interview call from Google. So it is not. I mean, they may not come to the tier two. I mean, in on as in person they may not visit because there are so many other colleges already, right? But it is not like because no one is visiting the college, you don't even try, right? So just try, I will say. And there are other ways as well. So basically, there will be coding hackathons that these companies organize every year. So you can actually prepare yourself for those hackathons and uh, join those companies. I mean, get, I mean, come into the vision of those companies. So in that way, also you can get into these companies. And the other one is maybe try to contribute to some open source project. If I mean that could be very difficult, but if you I mean if you can do something like that and the company notices you, right, then you might get a call from those companies directly, right? So just make sure that you always market yourself, so have it on LinkedIn whatever you are doing, so that companies notice you. I mean, don't do it like silently. So yeah.
Yeah, so
But
Hriday wants to know what was the reason you declined the call from Google?
okay. No. So actually, I mean, it started. The interview process is very long for Google. So as I said, right, it's really difficult. So I mean, it's a very long process. So they took 1 month to call me up for the first telephonic interview, another month for the Google Notepad based interview, and similarly, I mean, it was going like every month, one interview was being conducted. At that, I mean, in 2015, I'm saying, and actually I had got into IIT Guwahati, right? I mean, so I was actually studying, so I did not want to join any company for a job. I mean, because I wanted to complete did do my masters actually. So I actually politely told them maybe I can apply later on, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, got it. Also, Hriday wants to know that can we also add skills like singing, dancing in our resume? Is it helpful? I think you have answered the questions earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you could add them, but I'm not sure how it adds value. I have personally never added those things in my resume. But if you are some, I mean, if you are very keen towards something, right? For example, say drama, you are very much interested into drama, or say you're very much interested in quizzing for that matter, right? You can actually add them in your resume, because there will be companies who will be looking for people who have actually skills in these things, right? So I mean, it adds to their company, right? I mean, co-curricular stuff that you are doing, right? So it's not like you should never add it, but don't add it if you're not very much into it. I mean, don't add it for the just like, what is your hobby? I like watching movies. Don't add that. I mean, things like that. Yeah. I mean, which doesn't add value. And yeah.
Understood. Now there is a question like how should be a resume for PSUs? This was the question from Partha Das.
Okay. Frankly, I am not sure. I do not have experience in that part, but I think it won't be any different. But I mean, it again depends like what is the role that they are coming to hire for. So you can actually create a resume for which highlights things like that. For example, maybe the question that we had earlier, right? Quizzing, right? So if you are very good in quizzing, then it is possible that the PSU may hire you because they need a guy who is good in quizzing. So I mean, that now adds value, right? That particular thing. So even I know people who are actually good in quizzing and actually were able to make into companies because they were good in, I mean, quizzing. So yeah, that is possible. But as such, I mean, there is no, I mean, it's same everywhere, right? I mean, PSUs are also at the end of the day some company offering some role, so there is no blueprint for like writing some for PPSU. It's same. I mean, just follow all the basics and follow the standards, and I mean, it should be good. Yeah.
Mhm. Saptarshi had another question. Can I get both on-campus and off-campus placements, or after getting off-campus ones, will not be eligible for on-campus ones?
I think placement self should answer that. But as far as I know, I think we do not track off-campus things, right? In
Mhm.
AEC, right? So as far as I remember, it was like one person can have one. I don't know whether it has changed now. One person can have one accepted job offer. I mean, on campus. But if you have got something off campus, I'm not sure whether AEC is tracking those or not. But maybe placement cell can answer that question. I would be the wrong person to answer.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So here is we'll be taking our last question, which is again from Arif. He wants to know how much hard work is enough to directly hope a product-based company in a right role, and can you compromise on GPA while focusing in coding?
Okay, so actually, I mean, I'm not sure on this one. I mean, you should not actually compromise on GPA, because I mean, I don't know what compromise here means. What is like that you're saying? But try to always have at least the average GPA, CGPA, right? I mean, this is a wrong thing which people have in mind. Like, if someone is good in programming, he has to be dumb in exams. I don't think so. That is the case. It all depends on you, right? So don't take exams as, I mean, if I'm good in coding, don't have this in your mind. Like, if I'm good in coding, I should not be good in exams. Treat both of them equally, I'll say. Because in order to be shortlisted to the companies for a fresher, right, GPA is the first thing that they see, I think. Only after that you get, I mean, there is this filter, right? GPA will be checked, not just the BTech GPA. I think they even check class 10, 12 marks, right? So if you are really good in coding, but you do not meet the criteria of, say, some particular company comes and they say they want only guys which have 8 pointer, right? Or 80% plus, right? Then you don't even make it into that company because you do not have that much percent. But I mean, it's not like you should always try to be the topper, but just try to be the average. Like, just check with the placement cell what is it that the other companies which were visiting college, right? What is the minimum that they are asking for, and always make sure you are above the minimum, so that you don't lose out because of this percentage thing. So yeah, but I'll recommend try to focus in both. Don't try to be like just learning coding and forgetting that we also have to give exams, yeah. Because as a fresher this will be important. Maybe in the long run this won't matter. It doesn't matter what was your percentage after you have one or two jobs, or after you have worked for 2 3 years in some company. But for fresher, this is the filtering criteria, I think. In at least on campus. Off campus it may not be the case. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if anybody else have any other questions, you can turn on your mics and go on.
Hello, hello Nihalda.
Hey, hi.
Yeah, actually, I had two questions. One from my friend, who I guess somehow disconnected from the meet, and one from me. So my friend wanted to ask, what was your gate rank? Uh, and my question is like, in the skill section of the resume,
Yeah.
if I am not confident about a particular skill, like if I have used in some projects very months ago, so should I include that skill in the resume or not?
Yeah. So actually, maybe I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
So for the skills one, right? So actually, it's also possible that it's, I mean, because a fresher resume may have lot of space, right? I mean, so you can actually rank yourself on all the skills that you know. So, so if you know something a bit or just at the beginner level, right? You can give it a rating at the scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 3 or whatever, right? And then mention it in the resume. And then whenever the interviewer asks, right, then that guy knows that he has only listed it, but he is just a beginner. So that way you can tackle it. But if you don't want to do that, right, then maybe just don't include it, I'll say. Yeah. And for the gate rank, actually, I I did not have a very great gate rank. So so it was around, I think, 2000 or so. So, but how did I get into IIT was another story. So it is not just based on the gate rank. Okay. So so actually there's this program called trainee teacher program, where they actually call people from tier 1, tier 2, all these colleges for interview. So the criteria is that you have to be I don't know whether this program runs now or not, but back then it was there. So you have to be in the top 15% in the college, and you have to have a valid gate rank. So valid gate rank is you just qualify gate. So I actually qualified GATE by a huge margin. So I was called for interview, and then I was interviewed and got into NIT Meghalaya. And when I got into NIT Meghalaya, along with that, I got into IIT Guwahati. So I'm a backdoor entry into IIT Guwahati. So it's not a normal gate based entry. But this was tougher because I was being interviewed by IIT professor. But it was easier on the gate side. So I did not have to prepare for it. I mean, I did not never prepared for it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nihal.
So yeah, there are a few questions already in the chat box, but I feel that these are very basic questions, and since this session is only like limited to resume building only, so like I think most of them are juniors. So juniors, you can ask your questions in the WhatsApp group. Our seniors or the other members of the club will try to answer them since we are already running out of time. And now, Pradeep Dada, would you like to say something?
Hey, Bhupali. Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Hey,
Thank you.
Pradipta.
Hey,
Thanks for
Nihal.
joining.
Yeah, it was a pleasure actually, and congrats on the new role. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah. So yes, this session was amazing. I joined a little late, but I sat through it, and while attending this, I only had one thought that I wish I had somebody like Nihalda or somebody who would be guiding us during our college days, right? And I'm very sure Nihalda feels the same way as well.
Right.
So I would suggest the students to make the most out of these opportunities, right? These sessions, not everybody is getting these kind of sessions. Make the most out of it. Ask your questions, clear your doubts, and follow whatever he has said, right? These are some amazing suggestions. And also, on top of the suggestions, I also wanted to add a few things. The font thing, which he had mentioned in the last. The next thing is that apart from typos, I would also suggest take care of your grammar, right?
Mm.
I personally review a few resumes while taking interviews at my company, and I see that a lot of people don't really pay attention to the grammar that they write into the resumes, but that does give a negative impression. So you can use probably a tool called Grammarly. Let's not depend on
Mm.
that, but take care of the grammar when you write a resume, right? And one more thing is while adding socials like GitHub, LinkedIn, those are great. You should do that, but let's not put in Facebook or Instagram or things like that, unless you're applying for some creative role like a media thing or something like that,
Mm.
right? And there's one last thing that's try to spend some time on your resume, right? The return on investment that you put into it will actually be good. So these are the few things that I wanted to add. Apart from that, Nihal, I don't think there is anything left after this session from Nihalda. So this was amazing. I wish you good luck.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. Now, for an instance, I would like to request everyone to turn on your cameras so that
Okay, you want to see me? Okay.
I would like to request everyone just turn on your cameras for 30 seconds or so that we can take snapshots of the event. Yeah. Are the photos taken? All right. Thank you, everyone. I think the screenshot has been taken. Yeah. So, Nihalda, Pradiptada, thank you so much, Nihalda, for this session. I think like all of us have been benefited for this session. And since these are very like narrow topic, and we usually talk about like very broad topic, like we talk about job and coding, but these small details are very important. I'm sure a lot of us gained a lot of knowledge and got their doubts cleared about resume building. Also, Pradiptada, thank you for your time. Like these sessions are really very precious. At the same time, they are very informative, and we are looking forward to have such amazing sessions ahead. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we would conclude the session here.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.